Welcome to the Under 8 Podcast, a daily college basketball show brought to you every weekday in under 8 minutes. At the time of recording, it is Tuesday, January 9th, 11:15 p.m. My name is Josh Mullenix. On today's pod, it was a bad day to be a top 2 team in the sport. It's all right now on the Under 8 Podcast. Josh Doering is here with me. Pinnacle Bank Arena, Keisei Tominaga Court, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, 88-72 over the number one team in the land, the Purdue Boilermakers. 4 different Nebraska players in double figures. Tominaga, of course, leading the way in the scoring department. For Fred Hoiberg's squad, Josh, a 16-point win for Nebraska, and Purdue falls on the road in Big Ten play yet again.
Can we start away from this game in particular for 1 second?
Whatever you want. I'm here at your service. Whatever you want.
Because I would really like to appreciate the fortuitous series of events that are transpiring at Nebraska here. So you get the Midwest guy who was good enough, however you feel about the job Hoiberg's done so far in Nebraska, good enough to get himself an NBA job because of what he did in the Midwest at a school that you're not getting 4- and 5-star recruits at typically, to go be your head men's basketball coach. You have, right, and this is a school that has obviously all kinds of history and all kinds of different sports, but really struggled in this new era of college athletics we're living in. So you get a big name in Fred Hoiberg. The top football recruit happens to be the son of your former player. So you land him. And the most valuable softball player, who, oh, by the way, still has 2 years of eligibility left, happens to be from Nebraska and happens to want to go home. So you have Jordy Ball now, too, who's one of the biggest names in college athletics. It is just, it's all coming together for the Cornhuskers. I just wanted to point that out before we get into this game.
They're 13-3. They're 13-3, and we are officially in Nebraska NCAA tournament at-large bid territory with a win over Purdue. Getting into the game specifically, what sticks out to you?
First of all, Tominaga.
Dude.
He really, I mean, the only comp that you can make from a optics standpoint of what it looks like is Steph Curry. When he gets going, he just launches threes no matter who is there or how far away he is from the basket. It's amazing.
Him being lefty makes it even sweeter.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah. The other part of this for me, I mean, I don't think either of us are stunned by this. We both said Nebraska can win this game. You enter Keisei Tominaga court at your own risk. Question was whether they could actually pull off this kind of performance. And I mean, all their guys were fantastic. Tominaga, Hoiberg, CJ Wiltzer couldn't miss for a while there. They got a really, really good performance across the board, which is obviously what they needed in order to beat Purdue by 16. On the Purdue side, it would just be great to see them be able to restore order in games like this. We talk all the time about how they don't deal with pressure very well, but I started thinking in this game, it's more than that. It's also that when things aren't going well, they don't necessarily problem solve at a high level. And they did have those string of possessions where they finally got the ball to Edey, but it just feels like it's way more complicated than it needs to be sometimes. And that typically a team as good as Purdue, when, okay, Nebraska goes on the run to take the lead, right? Feeling really good at halftime. Purdue comes out, starts the second half. Oh, that's what we expect, right back into the game. And then allows Nebraska to go on another run that ultimately decided the game. It just usually you feel like these teams that are so good are going to be able to come back and restore order, right? You feel that way about Kansas. They're down 8 at Fog Allen. Somehow, some way, they're going to find a way to outscore you by 10 the rest of the way and escape by 2. And you just don't feel that way about Purdue because sometimes they make the comeback, but other times, like the FDU game, you go, there's no way they can lose this. And then they still managed to. And that was that was part of what I was thinking about in this game. The turnovers weren't terrible. Edey was not good in the first half. Didn't get enough shots. Mason Gillis was keeping him in the game. Defensively, he gave up 88 points. You just want to see more assertiveness, I guess, to just be able to say enough is enough. We're going to win this game. And too often they're just not able to do that.
Yeah, if anything, when they're up 10 in a high pressure situation, you think they're going to find a way to only win by 2.
Right.
No, I don't really think that, but like I'm way closer to thinking that than thinking the other way around, that when they are down by 8 with 4 minutes left, that they're going to find a way to win. There are a couple things. I think the point you make about pressure is really interesting, because I think a lot of the time it's just equated to speeding the backcourt up.
Right.
And it's like the whole building speeds the backcourt up. It's like, there were a couple of possessions in the second half where it just felt like Braden Smith was trying to find the 11-pointer on the floor to get it all back in one possession. And there were 3 or 4 different shots in the second half that I thought Braden Smith should have taken, and he's pump faking instead. And, there were a couple that turned into better shots. There was one where he was pretty wide open and he pump faked and then got it to Fletcher Lawyer, who was even more wide open, and Fletcher actually knocked down the shot. But it felt like that there was a hesitation from Braden in a season where I've really highlighted the context that he has this year and his ability to kind of take over and take more shots when it's necessary. I think that's really interesting. The other thing is, I wish it was harder for teams to come up with ways to stop Zach Edey from getting the ball.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not that difficult. It's, hey, Rink Mass, you stand behind Zach Edey, and Keisei Tominaga, you stand in front of him, and then Purdue just can't get them the ball. It seems so elementary. Like, Tominaga is on the fly here. Tominaga is 6'2", so he looks smaller than 6'2" on the court. Can we agree with? Does he look a little?
That's a generous 6'2".
Okay. But it's just kind of like, really, like they're just going to kind of rotate him in off of some guy who isn't going to shoot the 3, and that's going to stop you from getting the ball to the 7'4" guy in the middle. It just seems. There are times when I'm like, that is so easy that I could come up with that in a pickup game against a guy that's way taller than everybody else. Why can't we figure out a way to get him even if it's just, throw it as hard as you can at like 6 inches above Keisei Tominaga's head. Like, more times than not, he's probably not going to come up with the ball, and it seems way more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah.
Or way simpler than it needs to be. I'm not really sure which one.
Right. And that goes back to the restoring order thing of just, we're going to get the ball to Edey every possession. Good luck.
Yeah.
That is
we're gonna put 3 guys on one side of the court. Go put them in the corner. I don't care. Like, tell them to stand as like a group of penguins. Like, I don't care what you do. Just like, even if it's like we're taking pictures and laughing at, oh my gosh, look at this set that Purdue just ran. But if you get Zach Edey to the ball 12 times in the last 8 minutes of a game, you're probably going to come back. Like, he's probably going to score 7 times. If you just, and we can, like, Painter can talk about it all he wants to. It's just, the guy's 7'4". You can't tell me that we can't find a way to get him the ball.
And
I refuse to believe it.
In a game like this, where Nebraska's players outplayed Purdue's, taking away Edey, you need Edey to be the difference to win.
Yeah,
they weren't good. They weren't good. Nebraska's players were just better. And the final thing, to your point about that, this is my thing with the guards. And you and I have some. I think you get a little sensitive to think that I'm saying Braden Smith's not good, and that's not what I'm saying. The decision-making part of it, though, the floor general part of it, drives me nuts because of games like this. And that exact point of, sometimes you just need to get the ball to Edey. I wish there was just a little bit more presence, I guess is the word, because he's been great this year. He's been more aggressive, but there are just times you just go, what are we doing?
And the yin and yang thing is infuriating, because like against Illinois, he'll look like a first-team All-American guard.
Right.
And then he'll lose his mind for 4 minutes in the second half, and it's like, oh my gosh, is Purdue gonna lose this game? Like that, those things cross your mind, even when Purdue's looked like the better team for 37 of the 38 minutes that have been played. drives me crazy. You probably shouldn't lose a game if you're Purdue when you go 13 of 33 from the 3-point line either. Now, granted, Nebraska was 14 of 23. They made 61% of their threes, but it's not like, you made 13 of your own. So because my first instinct would be, oh, Purdue probably shot 2 of 19 from the 3-point line, and that just wasn't the case. They weren't good enough at the things that make Purdue dominant on most nights.
Yeah, it wasn't. Usually it's a very simple breakdown of why Purdue loses. This game, they just weren't good enough. It was a very un-Purdue-like performance. Yeah.
Crazy, y'all, to think they were going to walk into Keisei Tominaga Court at Pinnacle Bank Arena and walk out with a win. That's crazy, y'all. Bad night to be a top 2 team. Bad night to be a top 2 team. Houston in Ames, Hilton Coliseum, 57-53. They lose to the Iowa State Cyclones. TJ Ottsberger doing the dang thing. We talked about this last night a little bit. If Houston had a big dud type offensive night somewhere inside of them, this was possibly a night that we were going to see it. Houston 19 of 50 from the field, 7 of 26 from the 3-point line, 8 of 12 from the stripe. And they lose a game in which Iowa State was 38% from the field, 3 of 15 from the 3-point line. So it's not like Iowa State shot well either. This is exactly the type of score I was kind of hinting at when we talked about it last night. But Iowa State wins yet another game against the top 25 team in ugly sub 60, no offense whatsoever, but they somehow find a way to win fashion.
Yep. Real quick, just a couple of things, and I want to get your thoughts on them. Players not named Emmanuel Sharp and Jamal Shedd scored 19 points for Houston.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they didn't have anybody show up. They just had 2 guys carry everything.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, that's LJ Cryer. Because that's how you solve this problem. And we were kind of joking about that yesterday. Is LJ Cryer is the reason why this won't happen. Well, LJ Cryer did not have a good game, and guess what? It happened.
Yeah.
The other thing, ultimately the points off turnovers were the difference in this game. They were also the reason why Houston fell down 14-0, which is the reason they lost, because they're not built to play. Now, they did come back and easily could have won this game. But then you have to go on the next run, because you had to have the run to even get back in the game, and then the next run to tie it, and then you got to have it's for a team that doesn't score. It is very difficult to come back from 14-0. If you show up for 40 minutes, they probably win this game. Which gets to my big point here, which is number one, let's not overreact to this. Kansas loses this game every other year at least.
Sure. Welcome to the Big 12.
Welcome to the Big 12. Exactly. They didn't play poorly. They just didn't play well enough to win in a really hostile arena against a good team.
Yeah.
That's elite defensively and was able to expose their flaws. So my big question here is, because we were texting and you said we found out everything we need to know about these 2 teams. It went exactly as we expected. The one thing I'm not sure about yet, because I'm not going to overreact to this, I don't know if Houston or Kansas is the better team. That's one thing.
Fair. That's fair. I'm more the text I sent you was more of a, yeah, you know what? Houston's probably going to score 53 points in an NCAA tournament game, and we'll see if they win or lose it. And Iowa State can beat anybody on any given night, but they'll probably score like 55 in an NCAA tournament game, and we'll see if they won it
and have an ugly loss. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like they lost by 18 in a game in the round of 64 last year, in a game that they only gave up 59 points. That's impressive.
Well, it might have been the worst offensive performance I've ever seen. Yeah.
So that's more what I meant about
right.
that Houston specifically, but Iowa State to a certain extent under TJ Ottsberger, a lot or fall in the category of programs that I'm looking to answer one question every year, and that's, are they super susceptible to? And we knew that Iowa State was. This isn't this is a better offense than last year's team for several reasons, but still not awesome. And in all of their losses, they've failed to eclipse 70 points and failed to eclipse 64 in 2 of them. So we knew this about Iowa State. Houston is more of the like, okay, this is probably going to be a thing again. At some point, they're not going to be able to hit the broadside of a barn. Is that in the round of 32? Is that in the Sweet 16? And like Houston seems to do every year, they're just going to run into a team that's too talented for them to get away with the things that they usually get away with.
And saying they don't play good enough teams, so getting to the Big 12 is going to help them is lazy analysis. They play plenty of teams. They are ready to go for the NCAA tournament every year. They do what they're supposed to every year. And it's the same story every year because they're not built to win 6 games for this very reason. Nothing about going to the Big 12 changes this. To make that case is disrespectful to what Kelvin Sampson has done and where this program is.
The only thing that changes is where they get their quality games. Right.
Yes,
I mean,
right,
like
right.
you
Their
can
schedule
tell,
looks completely different this year.
tell in non-conference, like Kelvin
Yes.
Sampson was like, we don't have to schedule nearly as hard as we usually do. We're going to play in the Big 12. You can tell
Big 12,
that's
Big 12 commissioner was on the broadcast tonight, and he said, yeah, Kelvin Sampson goes, yeah, pretty much it's just playing 18 NCAA tournament games.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
I mean, as of right this second, Oklahoma State is a sub 100 KenPom team. UCF isn't great. Other than that, it's like all top 55 KenPom teams, and most of them are top 37. Big time schedule. Last but not least, real quick, 81-72 Baylor over BYU. Josh, for a little while, I thought I was going to come in here and have to put a sock in my mouth after talking about there was no way that BYU was going to win this game. It was close. Ultimately, Baylor gets enough from their starting lineup. A little Langston Love off the bench. Jalen Bridges, 25 points on 7 of 14 shooting. He was excellent. And that trio of guards in Jaden Nunn, Jacoby Walter, and Ray J. Dennis combined for 37 points on top of it. And that was enough to beat BYU tonight.
Yeah. Not a great first half from Baylor. A very good second half where they really started to impose their will on the game, got to the free throw line, knocked down some threes. And yeah, it was somewhat up in the air. Then Mark Pope gets the technical foul after they don't get the tie up, and then it really kind of unraveled from there. Ultimately, pretty impressive from BYU. Don't have any sweeping conclusions here. This is a game you're supposed to lose. The problem is, after you lose at home, this is the next game on your schedule in the Big 12. Again, welcome to the Big 12. So you got to find ways to win somewhere. And, Baylor only had 3 assists, 4 turnovers in the first half. The ball movement still bothers me, but they're so gifted individually. Offensively, you saw that in this game. Defensively, they really tightened things up in the second half. If I'm Scott Drew, I am upset that we gave up 39 points to BYU when they shot 4 of 13 from 3 in that first half. But they fixed in the second half. Yeah, Baylor was the better basketball team over 40 minutes, but it was very competitive for 35, 36, 37 of those.
Try this on for size. Baylor is this year's Miami. Last year's Miami. This year's Miami of last year. Miami might be Miami of last year, to be honest with you. But
yeah,
from a when it's all like, if you told me that Baylor was going to go to the Final Four because they just didn't miss for 2 weeks at the beginning of the NCAA tournament, I would not be surprised at all.
I'm with you generally. My hesitation is I'm not sure their ceiling is as high as Miami's.
I don't know, man. They shoot 45% from the 3-point line as a team. If they do that for 2 weeks.
Yeah, they don't take that many of them, though.
I don't care.
Maybe. I'm open to the possibility. I'm not quite there yet, though.
Okay. That's fair. I can't believe you're taking Miami over Baylor right now. You're like you're like the president of the Scott Drew fan club.
When they play defense. When they have a point guard I trust.
Yeah, but Miami doesn't play defense either. So
because I still feel like Miami has more offensive firepower.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That's
not according to KenPom. Not according to KenPom.
Yeah, that's fine. If you're asking me which team is going to
KenPom right there, that was shade at KenPom right there. That was
sometimes
totally shade at KenPom.
Sometimes I have questions about KenPom.
All right.
As much as I respect the word KenPom does. If I'm taking one team that's just going to go berserk offensively, I'm still picking Miami.
That's fair. I do think that I do think that Baylor has, because Miami kind of did that thing last year where they won a bunch of games. No one ever took them super seriously. And then they got to the tournament and they just made everything. I don't think very many people are taking Baylor super seriously right now.
Yeah.
But they can score the basketball.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I'm definitely with you that that's where this is heading. I'm just not sure they can actually pull it off. That's the
Fair
kind
enough.
of team they're going to be, though, in March, for sure.
Fair enough. You got anything else? The
Good win
Under 8
for-
podcast in 20 minutes, by the way. There you go.
Good win for Boise State.
Very much so.
Mountain West. Show the Mountain West a little bit of love. And then, South Carolina was hanging in there in my kind of under the radar game of the night. And then South Carolina was not hanging in there anymore. Yikes. Go check that second half score of the Alabama-South Carolina game if you haven't seen it.
Why you got to put them on blast like that? I got a couple things. Kentucky beats Missouri at home. The other one I think is a nice bounce back win is Texas winning at Cincinnati. I think that's a solid win for Rodney Terry and that team. Kind of after the entire country put them on blast after they were still ranked in yesterday's AP poll. So that's a good one for them. I don't think I have a ton else. Good Tuesday of college hoops, though. Good Tuesday of college hoops.
Excellent.
Anything else? Anything else?
Lots of fun. Nope.
Lots of fun for sure. That's going to do it for this edition of the Under 8 podcast. Tuesday, January 9th. It's now 11:37 p.m. past my bedtime. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to your shows. Follow the Under 8 pod on Twitter. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that button. It takes just a couple seconds. Maybe the like button if you're feeling super generous. We'd very much appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. And we will see you tomorrow.